And here we go. It's actually a Sunday where I'm at, which means it's by and large the beginning of a new week, according to some standards. I've always thought of it as the last day of the week, though. The new week starting tomorrow. And I believe that's the way payroll does as well, in some places. Haha. There's more than one way to do things, that's for sure. So, I'm going to share a little bit with you today about some things that I've been studying this past week. And really the whole point of this exercise is to be able to be more comfortable to speak over large periods of time to a microphone, which is really actually a complicated process without going off on totally rambling trips. Which I have done in the last few days trying to figure out what I wanted to say. And I don't even know if this one's it or not either. But just kind of run you a few things, run you through. Whoo, Lord, see what I'm saying? Erase. So run through a few things that I've been studying this week or so. And 1848, that's one of the topics. Number 1, 1848. Number 2 is the Homo Sapiens Neanderthalis. And of course, that's kind of controversial in there, isn't it? You're probably stuck on 1848. What does that mean, right? Should I do a little quick synopsis? Perhaps I should do a quick synopsis for you. But 1848 was the year that Ashley County was formed, and it was formed from 3 adjoining counties. That's Drew, Chico, and Union. I don't know, probably more Union than anything. But anyway, so it made another county down here in 1848, and so it also made the 3rd largest county in Arkansas. Apparently there was a lot of things that went on in 1848. I mean, I've noticed that I just did a quick little review of the local areas, and I see that, of course, our county was formed. That's pretty big. That was 170 years ago. So our county was formed this 170 years ago, and if you look around in the surrounding counties, there's all kinds of things going on. There are new courthouses being built, I believe up in Bradley County. I think there were a couple previously built in Union County, and of course there were some things going on in Drew County. So there was a lot of things going on back then around here. There was a lot of economic activity. I don't know what the population was at that time. But it had to be a lot of people around here, and I've been trying to understand, the whole ramifications of what was going on then, 170 years ago. And of course, I think the people were probably a lot different than what they are now. And by that, I mean there was probably still remnants of Native Americans running around. You hear everybody speak of how their great-great-grandpa, whatever it was, or vice versa, grandma married a Native American, or one that was mostly Native American. So there was a lot of things genetically going on around here, in addition to all the economic activity. Apparently there were lots and lots of trees being cut still, because there was like sawmills everywhere. I've been studying the one up in Warren. It was the Southern Lumber Company. It was purchased by Potlatch in around 1958. But, there was a lot of things that went on there in 1939. That sawmill burned and they renovated it. I saw a little black and white silent film that's floating around on YouTube about the Pine Woods Southern Lumber Company. Anyway, they were that little video is pretty neat. It was filmed in 1925, so they had some great little titles to it, so you kind of knew what was going on, and they show you the whole process of the sawmill, which I tour those things all the time, even modern ones, and that, they put computer stuff on top of a lot of it, but it's still basically the same thing. It comes in. It's really amazing to watch how they did it, man. They were cutting those trees down with saws and axes and hand saws. One person on each side. And so they had to cut down the tree, saw down the tree, fell the tree, and then they had to, cut it up into lengths that were going to be needed or that would be useful. And then they had load these things either on some kind of a wagon or roll them, pull them with a horse and some kind of a strapping system out to a road, or have the horse with the horses on a little log carriage as such, come pick them up. Of course, they had to get them up on the carriage, and it shows you real briefly how they did a lot of these things, and of course pulling it with the horses, and using straps and horses and long poles to get them up on the carriage. Then, of course, it would show the process of usually putting them, and they had some kind of a little crane mechanism that they would put on and put on there on a load of logs or a log, and put it onto a railroad that was down into wherever the logging area was at that point in time, and then hauled them up to Warren, to the Southern Lumber Company, and roll them off in this big pond. They were floating around out there, and there was one guy doing a cool little trick on the video. He was on top of the log out in the water, spinning it round and round. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of like you'd see on a cartoon. The person was really doing it. The person had some balance, my friend. So then it went on up to the sawmill, and then it went to the sawmill, and they finally poured it in through this. It was a mechanism like you'd see now. It's like a chain, click, 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 and it poured up in there, and it started going through all the processes. There's the band saws and the knot saws and this and that and the other. There's all kinds of. They trimmed that thing into boards, and the ones I was looking at, it was like like 2x4s and 2x8s and 2x12s, and along those lines. So it was pretty interesting, and it goes on out and how it was shipped off into a warehouse or whatever else. It's the exact same thing that I see with them now. It's just amazingly, similar to what we see. And of course, like I said, that was 1925. It wasn't all the way back to 1848, but it was still a good ways back. I knew there's always been technology. If you go back and you look anywhere back to 5,300 years ago to Utsi the Iceman, or down here at these Ouachita Mounds, which is about 5,000 something years ago. And then, there's these people, even though they were, they didn't have the technology we have, but they still had a mechanism as such. They had a way of doing things, and it was just different than the way we do it, but they were still accomplishing those same things. They had a remedy for a stomach ache, like we have remedies for stomach ache. They have entertainment like we have entertainment. They have ways to travel, and they have all of these things that we have. It's just different. And we say, well, I don't know how they existed like that and be productive. Even you look at the work we do today compared to 20 years ago with computers. Well, how do we ever get all that stuff done? Well, you just have to be a different level of productivity, I guess is what it is. Things have changed, sped up, So, but for the time, you got everything done you needed to do. So it was not like you were not in a state of abundance then. It's just that everything moved at that pace. Which, whenever I talk about the 1848, or as far back as the Homo Sapiens Neanderthalis, whom they say disappeared from the fossil record around 25,000 years ago. You're talking about people that live totally different than what we do. And notice it on the Neanderthal there, what we commonly call like Neanderthalis, but really a lot of people refer to them as as I quoted, Homo Sapiens Neanderthalis, and they call the human beings, which is what most of us are, although I do believe I'm a lot Neanderthal. But anyway, they call those Homo Sapiens Sapien, which is us. And of course, they'll also tell you in the next breath that, we bred with them 100,000 years ago on up to 35,000 years ago. They found hybrids very close to us in the record, 35, 45,000 years ago, that were both Neanderthal and Sapien. So, it was, it's really, it's, they're in the same family. It's kind of hard to differentiate people from that, because that they're sister species, and, they There's two birds right above me. This is really fascinating. I mean, they're literally 8 feet above me on a couple limbs there. But our species, they say now, like they're sisters. In fact, they interbred bunches and bunches. And even people today that I say non-African people have 2 to 5% Neanderthal DNA. Think about that. Basically, what it implies is if you're, Asian or European, you have 2 to 5% Neanderthal blood in you. And I can look in the mirror. I kind of hinted this a little bit ago. It's like I kind of look like a Neanderthal, but I really do. I'm short, stocky. Got kind of a brow. I haven't done the DNA test. I'm actually scared to do that. Excuse me, but it's I'm sure that I'm at least in the 2.5% range, and there's a lot of people like that, and those were a different, very primitive kind of animal. You can watch how in the videos on YouTube, you can do Neanderthal documentaries, and you'll find that whenever the Homo Sapiens, which I mostly came up, they had a whole suite of skills. Even though Neanderthals were very strong and well built and dense bones and survived through some of the coldest parts of Earth for hundreds of thousands of years, they were really no match for the Homo sapien. But now, there's a group of them that interbred. And of course, it would be easy to have bred them out, and we don't know that we didn't breed them out, because of the fact that they're, just from hearing the talk, at the very largest population levels they ever reached, there may have been 100,000 of them from the Atlantic Ocean in Europe all the way over to Asia. So they lived in very small bands, up to 25 people. A lot of times a lot less, 6 to 8 people. And they had a different mindset. They didn't look at the world quite the same. I mean, they had huge brains. By the time a kid was 12, 11 years old, or he had a skull larger than the sapien. But they were just doing different things with it. So, I don't know. It's just almost as if with such low numbers, 100,000 across there, and of course that was at a high point. We don't know whenever the sapiens got there if they were that many. But you can almost see them being bred out, where there's still remnants of it there. There's a prediction, like I mentioned, Uzi the Iceman. He was 5,300 years old. This guy they found up in the Alps, on the Italian Alps side, actually, near the Austrian border. And he was, he had a higher percentage of Neanderthal than what we have now. And of course, that's just, it's been bred out over the years. It's kind of weird to see how it works. If you move to a specific latitude of Earth, people have a lot of, I know it just bothers a lot of people to hear about the scientific, I guess, theories. They may be hypotheses, but how things came about, but it's it makes sense to me, and it's what I've been studying, is the history and the past, and I love that, tying all of that into today. But you move to certain latitudes, you can see it. It's kind of like, I think that what bothers people is they go, well, how you gonna move to a certain latitude and your skin just change? Your skin won't change, but your breeding selections would change. In other words, if you're in an area that, like the area that we're in Arkansas, it's subtropic. So what you'll find is that you don't need really white skin here. And you don't need really dark skin because you're not getting vitamin D. So you need to be some kind of around Native American color. And it's exactly, a lighter tone. And of course, but still having a little bit of color because it does get hot here. So what you do is you watch an area over a long period of time, and it will turn a certain color. It will turn the color that's needed for that environment. So if it's really hot or really cold, it'll be really, if the sun shines a lot there, and it's hot, your skin will get darker, and if it's cold, your skin will get lighter. Because the lighter it gets, the more it can suck in the vitamin D, keep you alive. It's not hard to understand that, but if you just think about it for just a second, you may not need it to change yourself, but over generations, your mate selections, and that's what they call selection. Mate selection is based upon that. A lot of the times. Now, there's huge populations do this and that and the other, but you just watch it. You can't watch it over a human time. Although you can see it, but you watch it over a long period of time. You look at over 1,000 years, then you'll see. But 1848 wasn't 1,000 years ago, and neither were the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals were, like I said, up to 25,000 years ago, and 1848 was just 170 years ago. So that means that the United States is over that. That's what, 225 years and 30 years, whatever it is. That says 1976. Woo, Lord, 242 years right now. So there's the 170 years is just for Ashley County, not the United States, obviously. So so at that time, so we got two different threads going on there. We don't have Neanderthals running around back then, but those are the two things that I've been studying. And of course, you're not really related, so it's easy to keep them apart in your head. Just two interesting topics to me. And I want to learn more. I'm going to try to, over the next few weeks, kind of explore the history of Ashley County. And what I've done is I've set up a website and a Facebook page called Ashley County Now. And of course, I got a lot of roots here, for a long time. In fact, I was looking the other day, I did the mathematics, the ratio of my age to the age of the county. And of course, I've been here for almost 28% of the length of the county. And then, of course, I've got people in my family that's probably been here for, my genetics has been here, speaking of, for probably the whole thing or more. So, that's always interesting to see. You get that much tied to a land. I'm obviously not the great explorer. But then again, you may have to look at that over the 1,000-year period as well, huh? I'm just one little kink in the chain. And there's no telling where that chain may go. Hopefully it will go far, 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 far into the future with my beautiful boys. And that's another thing that, of course, I always do. I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of other things. I love my career. I love being involved and helping grow things and build things, including kids and companies. But the children are, the most complex thing in the world. It's like your heart out walking around outside of you. So, you always got to be, paying attention to them, too. So you have to figure out how to weave all those things together to make it one cohesive match. Which, back then, the people that I like to study did, because they lived off the land. They weren't tied to corporations and such. So, here's the deal. Who was happier? Who was happier? The Neanderthal, the person living in 1848, or us today? So, I'll let you answer that. Hope you've had a great week. And if not, I hope the next one is beautiful for you. Have fun, but be safe.